So let me pick back up on this material and walk you through these handouts, just to make sure that you know where you are and you know how to find things. So I want to go back into the classical argument essay unit and then click on the first week of materials. So this is the week of October 21st. And then at the very bottom of that folder, there is this folder on the classical argument essay materials. I have the study materials and the graded items up above it. So it's kind of buried at the bottom of the page. But excuse me. So I walked through all of this, and I was talking about the classical argument structure at the end of the previous video, and I want to pick back up on that. So this point, if it will strengthen your argument, you may place your grounds, your points, to follow the key arguments against your position and your response to those objections. So in other words, paragraphs 2 through 4 would follow paragraphs 5 through 6. And again, those are just estimation numbers. If you use just the 3 paragraphs for the points, have only 3 points that you're making, paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. And you have only 1 paragraph of response to the objections. So that just allows me to talk about them and call them by a number. And again, that should make it clear that you have to have at least 7 paragraphs. And they have to have these particular functions. So the way it would work in this other order, this to use this less common approach, I think this works best when you have something that is highly argumentative, highly flammable, an issue that people just don't listen to each other on. And the reason for that is if you begin, I mean, you have your introduction regardless, okay? Your introduction and your conclusion never move from their positions. What would happen is you would reverse these 2 chunks of material in the middle of your paper. And so what happens with this unusual, this atypical order, is that after your introduction, which ends with your claim and your reason, then you would immediately say, not everyone agrees with this perspective. Some people think this, still others think this, others hold this other perspective. And then you would move into your response to those objections in a new paragraph, a 3rd paragraph. The problem with this perspective is that it doesn't take this into consideration. The problem with this other perspective is that it doesn't consider this. This perspective has some merit, however, it has a problem in that it does this other thing. And so you would discuss those objections in 1 or 2 paragraphs. And then you would come back to your argument, to what were formerly paragraphs 2 through 4. And you would state each of those points in a paragraph and discuss its strengths and provide data that supports it, provide statistics, provide expert witness, and then you would complete your essay with your conclusion. So again, that's often a valuable approach when you have something that's so that has such opposition to it that people might not listen to you as soon as you state what it is you think, what your perspective on the issue is, and why you hold that perspective, what you're going to argue. So I have provided a sample outline here, just showing you, walking through the paragraph so you can see how this thing holds together. So in your intro paragraph, again, you're going to provide a story or statistics or something to catch the reader's attention. Make sure that it sets the stage for the topic. Think towards 6 to 12 sentences for your introduction. And then end with your thesis statement, which is your claim and your reason. And then in the usual structure, you would move on to one reason this claim is true is that blah, 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 blah. Remember to state your point first. Make your statement and then provide quotes or paraphrases to support it. What you don't want to do is start a paragraph by saying, so-and-so says this, so-and-so explains that this, or according to a recent study, this is the case. That's not your point. That's data that supports a point. You must make your point first. So make sure that you begin each of these body paragraphs with a statement of something that supports your claim or supports your reason. So another reason for the claim is blah, 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 and you do the same thing there. And then another reason for this perspective is this, following that. And then that shortest paragraph of all, that contrast. Not everyone agrees with this perspective. Some people think this, others think X, some think Y, so others think that Z is a better approach. End of paragraph. That's it. It's going to be just a couple of sentences. And then the problem with X perspective is that whatever, and provide proof for that if you can. Sometimes you can use a source that supports that perspective, the perspective that opposes yours. You can use a source there to show how someone views that perspective and then explain what's wrong with it. Explain the shortcomings of it. So include all of those opposing perspectives that you have mentioned in that previous paragraph, either in a single paragraph or in several paragraphs. And then after you have done that, you close with your conclusion. So again, you might just summarize what you have said, your main points. You might return to a story. If you told a story in your introduction or created some kind of scenario, you might return to that in your conclusion. You might tell the reader why it's important for them to have a perspective on this issue. You might tell them what to do, how to take action, if that's something that your issue requires. And then there is this handout on the informal fallacies. Again, the textbook, Chapter 14, does such an excellent job providing examples of these fallacies, and so I'll let you read those. But again, we are seeing so many of these fallacies in arguments these days in the presidential race and in the Senate race. I know here in our area, I guess also in the House race. I'm trying to think what other candidates I'm hearing on the TV and radio that are driving me crazy. So make sure that that you pay attention to those. So that's the overview of these handouts. Now let me talk just a little bit about some issues that might appeal to you. So this has to be something, as I've said, that is arguable, that has clear, different perspectives. So this is not just something that is factual. With facts, there should be no argument. Sadly, we are hearing a lot these days about fake news when accurate data is presented and then someone argues against the data. There is no argument against factual data. Facts are facts. And so don't let yourself get caught up in that kind of disagreement. We're talking about opinions here. We're talking about perspectives on issues. So how do you feel about this? What do you think is right or wrong? What do you think is better or worse? What do you think is best and worst? What do you think, how do you think a situation should be resolved? So these are opinions. Now we base them on facts, but facts are facts, and so you cannot argue that. So when we think about things that you might want to argue, one of the things I would call your attention to is to look at the, and let me pull this up on behind my screen while I'm talking so that I can get to this, if we wanted to go to the library, for instance, at the college, on the college page, then to search for the college, to search for the library. And from there, then select this link that we find and scroll down. Don't use the search engine at the top, the Primo, but search under the quick links. And if you go to opposing viewpoints and click on the light bulb, I've shown you this before. But if you take this approach and click on that light bulb to browse the issues, then you get this huge list of topics. And I think most of you would be able to find something that you're interested in here. And because you can find a topic that you're interested in here, then you know you can find sources here. And so, fake news on social media, there you go. Fast fashion, that's interesting. I've been reading a lot with recycling and with the pollution problem. What a big problem fast fashion is, because we buy clothes and we buy them quickly, and we buy things that are made quickly and made poorly. Then they get discarded before their time, and our fabrics are ending up in landfills and are clogging machines and are just creating great problems. My issue there with pollution, politics and religion, that's always an interesting one. Freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. Freedom of assembly, of course, has been a big issue lately through the summer with the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. I know there have been, and so many others, killed by our police. There probably is one here on policing, I would think, yes. Police brutality. And so, you know, if that kind of issue interests you, that always interests me. My first husband, who died from kidney cancer as a young man, was a police officer. In fact, was a police chief in a town here in Kentucky. And so I'm always interested in things having to do with the police and with police brutality. Racial profiling, right to bear arms, riots in the United States, health insurance, healthcare legislation, hate crimes, hate groups, automation in the workplace, bioterrorism, book banning, breast cancer. That's something I'm always aware of. My sister had breast cancer 25 years ago and was cured of that, thank goodness. Interracial marriage, we've seen more attention paid to that lately. Gay marriage, we've also seen gay rights, things, that issue brought to the forefront. Human trafficking. I mean, there's just an amazing number of topics here, and so looking through this, you are likely to find something that you're interested in. I'm probably making you dizzy as I scroll up and down. So I see homeschooling on here. So it makes me think about this topic, how one might phrase one's claim and reason. And so the claim is going to be your statement. Again, this that something is or is not, or should be or should not be a certain way. And then the reason is because. And so one might argue that homeschooling is a good option for many students because it allows education to be adapted to each student's learning style. Okay? So with whatever idea you come up with it, whatever issue, think about the claim you want to make, that it is a certain way, it is not a certain way. It should be, it should not be a certain way because of your reason. And so those are the two pieces that you want to put together for your thesis statement.